in the area of management, governance is very, very important. If you are looking into governance in an organizational context as well as in the political context. So my area is going to be about self-governance. Now, what is about the presentation? Now, before we go into the content, let me provide you with the objective and outcome of this session. Firstly, upon completion of this session, it will provide or it will create awareness to readers of governance on existence of a 4th century BC literature such as Arthasastra of Kautilya. And there are also other works of Kautilya. It's called Chanakya Nidhi. Okay, you have Arthasastra. This is an Arthasastra. This is written by, the one I'm showing you is written by Rangarajan. And you also have other works of Kautilya, Chanakya Nidhi. And also there are sutras attributed to Kausalya, sutras attributed to Kautilya as well. Second is to explore the relevance of Kautilyan of self-governance management. If you are looking into management in an organization, it will be relevant. And if you are looking into political context, it is also relevant. Both organizational and also political context, it will be relevant. Third one is to highlight the contribution of Kautilyan philosophy and ideas to governance and management thoughts in the 21st century. Okay, this is 21st century. Sometimes people will be wondering, we are now in the 21st century. What are we going to, why are we looking into a literature that has been written in the 4th century BC? So is it relevant? Okay, these are some of the things that we are going to look at in this presentation. Firstly, let's me give you some introduction about the field of management and also governance. Governance, it's used sometimes interchangeably. If you look into sometimes management, manager, leadership, the development of effective management and leadership in an organization or leadership in a political context where governance plays a very important role. So the fields like management has gone through a lot of changes, has evolved over the century, over the 1 century, you can look into over the 2 centuries. If you look into many textbooks, okay, most of the textbooks in management, in governance, you won't find anything about Kautilya. As far as I know, that has been written in the Western context. Even the books that has been written in a Malaysian context, hardly anybody mentions about Kautilya, or Chanakya or even Vishnu Gupta, same, they are the same person, but they have many other people whom they consider as fathers of management. For example, a student of management, when they study evolution of management, they will come to know that Frederick Taylor will be called as the father of scientific management. Frederick Taylor, if you can do a search. Who is Frederick Taylor? Father of scientific management. And then you will come across Henry Fayol. Henry Fayol as a father of administrative management. You might even cross him like Max Weber as a father of bureaucratic management. There are many fathers. And then you have Alton Mayo on the humanistic side, and then many fathers of management. But hardly you find anything mentioned about Kautilya. In fact, for me, I look into Kautilya can be considered as one of the father of management, father of economics as well. Economics and also management, because his work is much earlier than many of these fathers that is called in the context of management. I'm sure many of you who study economics, you will know names like Adam Smith. Okay, Adam Smith is considered to be what? Father of modern management, modern economics, right? You say Adam Smith, and then many other names. No, Jean Baptiste say in the past, classical economics. These are all the names that are mentioned frequently. But I cannot remember any economics because my background is also economics. My first degree in economics. When I study economics, never come across. Yeah. So if you look into the paradigm, the literature on management and governance have moved over the years from scientific approach to more humanistic approach, whereby today we can say that management and governance is considered to be an art with no perfect formula. Some other fields you might get a formula, you might have a specific model that can be applied everywhere, but in terms of management, in terms of governance, you can't find one formula that can be applicable in any context. Maybe I can say culturally, if you look into some of the ideas from Kautilya can be applicable in the Indian context. Maybe that's one of the things that we can look into, but it needs some form of a testing. Okay. The other thing about governance and management today is that there is a study of governance and management takes an interdisciplinary approach. You get interdisciplinary means you get fields like psychology coming in, social psychology, anthropology also there, okay, a political science, okay. I mentioned sociology earlier, political science. Also, we have what they call economics. The field of economics also applicable, finance, and many other, including I also find for management and governance, there is an increase in what they call spiritual, philosophical, and historical approach are also growing. There is also a growth in this area, in these disciplines are also contributing to the field of management and governance. And one more thing is that the approach towards management and governance, you can look into two ways. One is outside in, and the other one is called inside out. Actually, if you really do a study about Kautilyan model of governance, it provides inside out rather than an outside in. Many of the models that is being developed in the West, that is available to us today, it takes an outside in, not an inside out. In fact, many of the philosophical components talks about the development starts from the leader. Even in the studies of leadership, there is a difference between leader development and leadership development. Leader and leadership, you need to make a differentiation. Governor and governance also needs to be differentiated. Development of a governor is different, and then development of governance will be different. Governor and governance. One is the mostly, if you look into individual development context, you have to look at. Now, let us come into Kautilya. Who is he? I'm sure over the last 2 days you are here in this seminar, in this workshop. About Kautilya, who he is, definitely would have been given by many of the speakers. But just to, without spending a longer time in this, you might come across these names: Kautilya, Chanakya, Vishnu Gupta. According to several sources, his name is Vishnu Gupta. Okay, but it's also referred to Kutil Nidhi. It's because of the what they call his teaching. Okay, and then some says it is due to his Gotra, but it is disputed by some scholars. Okay, Kautilya, and it is also known as Chanakya. So whether you get Kautilya, Chanakya, or Vishnu Gupta, it is referring to the same person here. Okay, so Kautilya or Chanakya authored Artha Sastra. Artha Sastra. Okay, in earlier I had a discussion about Malaysia and Malay language. If you look into Malay language, Artha Sastra is also same. You can find it. In Malay, Artha means wealth, Sastra means literature. Okay, so if we get into similar, there are some terms that are some of the words are similar. Artha Sastra, Chanakya Niti, and also sutras. He has a lot of compiled many sutras. Sutras means something like aphorism. Okay, in the 4th century BC. He's known to be the professor of politics and economics at the Takshashila, or you call Takila University, is known to have pulled down the Nanda dynasty. A lot of stories about how he was humiliated, how he took a vow that he is going to be responsible for the downfall of Nanda dynasty. These are all, if you find from many readings, literatures are available for you to read. And he's also known to be the kingmaker. Kingmaker, if you look at Mahabharata, Krishna is also a kingmaker. In Ramayana, Rama is also a kingmaker. He changed the kingship, for example, of Kishkinda from to Vibhishana. So same applies. Just like here, if you are looking into Chanakya, took the role of a kingmaker. Chandragupta Maurya benefited a lot from his teachings here. Okay, Artha Sastra. First, before we go into Kautilyan Sutras, Kautilyan governance model, Artha Sastra is a treatise on political economy written in Sanskrit. And it is also compared, people always do a comparison between Artha Sastra and The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. Machiavelli, or he called Machiavelli, is from the 16th century. He wrote sometime in the 1520 something. He wrote The Prince. People say Kautilya is the Indian Machiavelli, but if you really look at Kautilya's work, is a Machiavelli is the European Kautilya. Rather, that will be much better to say if you do a comparison between this work. Okay, this is also a very important book if you go and do a search in this particular literature about Kautilya. Now, Artha Sastra consists of 15 books, 150 chapters, and about 6,000 sutras. And it covers three main areas: national security issues, administration of justice, and economic development policy. So overall, you can say this book is a book on total management. It provides a holistic perspective of management, which includes governance. We're looking into governance. Now, let's take people who wants to do study about ancient literatures like Artha Sastra, even if you want to do any of the Upanishad, the Vedic, the Idihasas, methodology of studies. There are many. If you do like a qualitative base tax analysis in a business, maybe you are looking into when you do the research in business, in management, you apply totally different. You might be using a mixed mode, quantitative, qualitative. But when you do a tax analysis, this is mainly a qualitative and used frequently in some of the social science fields, especially in the fields like philosophy and people who do studies about ancient texts. There is also another term that is called exegesis. Also, if you want to do some search on that, it's about study, understanding, and interpretation of ancient or classical literature such as Artha Sastra. Sometimes when you do this, you have to do analysis of the language, the content, and also the context. Sometimes the content can be relevant. You have to look into from the context. Okay, and also the analysis of the literature. So usually if I do like for example, this is an Artha Sastra Ranga. When I do read, you try to identify what is it relevant in the, if you're looking into from the context of management, identify and discover what are the best practices, what is the idea that is being presented by the author. And then you need to do further investigation in terms of analysis of the content as well as the context. Some of the content might not be applicable in the current context. So you need to look into both content and context. Then you do interpretation to look at whether how is it going to be relevant for governance in today's context in the 21st century. You have to remember Artha Sastra written in the 20th. How it is going to be relevant, you need to identify. Then you integrate in terms of practice. How can you integrate, modify, and integrate a lesson in the practice of governance? Some of the things, many things are very idealistic. Just like if you study Ramayana, there are also many things that are idealistic, but it can be practiced. It can be integrated in a modern context. Now, looking into Artha Sastra, Kautilya's Artha Sastra, it has been there since 4th century BC. The person who rediscovered, we need to give credit to the person who rediscovered this Artha Sastra, Rudrapatnam Shama Shastri, okay, who lived in from 1868 to 1944. He rediscovered in Mysore Oriental Library and translated into English parts by parts. And then there is also an edition by R.P. Kangli, edited, which became basis for later translation. And the one that I have shown you earlier, this one is by L.N. Rangarajan, translated into English. And now you have several researchers over the years, such as Professor Balbir Siha. I think he is also one of the speakers in day one when I look at the program. Dr. Radha Krishnan Pillai and many other researchers who have done extensive research on Artha Sastra and also on other things like Chanakyan Niti Sutras. Okay, I have found there's also one author called Garde who did a study about Chanakya Sutras, which I will what they call quote some of that later. In the fields of economics, finance, business, and management, growing numbers of research. In fact, there are also PhD theses in this area on Kautilya Arthasastra. Okay, that people have are doing research in the modern context. Now, looking at the Arthasastra, begins so Sukracharya and Brihashpati. People who are familiar with the Puranas, the Idihasas and Puranas, the Vedic literature will know Sukracharya is a teacher of the Rakshasas, of the Asuras, whereas Brihashpati is a teacher of Devas. So Kautilya is giving salutations to both. It's not mentioned here. Kautilya is giving salutations to only Brihashpati, but he is giving salutations to Sukracharya. That means you have to look at both sides. Sometimes when we analyze things, we tend to look at only one side. Natural justice required in a Latin terms, audi ultram partem. Hear from the other side. You need to hear both sides before you make a conclusion. So both sides, this is a balanced perspective. Whatever you do, whatever you read, whatever you analyze, have a balanced perspective before you come to a conclusion. So Arthasastra Kautilya begins with a salutation, and definitely here if you look into the right, he has used, according to Kautilya, his Arthasastra is made as a compendium of almost all the Arthasastra, which in view of acquisition and maintenance of earth have been composed by ancient teachers. Who are the ancient teachers? We will come into that. In his Arthasastra, Kautilya made references to many teachers, including Bharadvaja, Vishalaksha, Parashara, Manu, Pishuna, and many others. Now, my analysis when I look into the Arthasastra and the content of Arthasastra, I can tell you that the earliest Arthasastra is not from Kautilya. If you really, but it was not mentioned anything about Arthasastra, but the contents of Arthasastra, the earliest one can be found in Valmiki Ramayanam. For example, if you look into Valmiki Ramayanam, Ayutthaya Kandam, Ayutthaya Kanda of Valmiki Ramayana, specifically in Ayutthaya Kandam. Any one of you here who have read Valmiki Ramayanam, go to Ayutthaya Kandam 100. Chapter 100 of Ayutthaya Kandam of Valmiki Ramayana consists of the questions that Rama will be asking Bharata, Kasyit Sarga. All the questions, if you analyze the question, the answers are already there in a question. They were already there in the answers. And all that questions are related to administration, related to governance, related to economics, related to finance, treasury, management, leadership. Everything is there. But of course, there are also other parts in Valmiki Ramayana, not only in Ayutthaya Kanda. It is also available in Aranya Kanda, Kishkinda Kanda, also in part of Yuddha Kanda. Also, there are some of the lessons that can be seen from the context of contents of the Arthashastra. One more, if you look into expression, I don't think Arthashastra is available. Because if you look into both Valmiki Ramayana, Mahabharata, it's not only about Artha, it's all the Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, all it contains. So remember, Artha is just one of the life, okay, aim of the life. It should be aim of the life besides Dharma, Kama, and Moksha. So coming to governance and self-governance, sometimes we need to make a distinction between these two, and also from what governance, self-governance means from the literature. See, governance is a function of management and leadership. And most of the modern management thinking on leadership is about outer governance or organizational transformation. It is not much about inner transformation of the governor, but more of outer transformation of an organization by a governor who might not have transformed internally. So governance of decisions are implemented. In a nutshell, if you want to go into a definition, please go into a literature on how governance is defined. You might find many ways of how it has been defined. Now, when you do a careful study on Kautilyan model, Kautilya emphasized self-governance first before self-government or Swaraja. See, you have to distinguish between self-governance and self-government. Sometimes this self-governance, in some literature, they equate with self-government. I rather make a distinction between self-governance is different from self-governance. Self-governance, okay? And this self-governance is a foundation of governing outer world, Samraja. So therefore, it is said, when you look into this, self-transformation is a basis for outer transformation. Self-transformation first before you transform. You conquer yourself first before you conquer people. And them who cannot govern himself cannot govern others. And someone who is governing himself with higher values can evoke, inspire, induce a similar aspiration and effort in others. This is where you look into even transformational leadership, or we can even call this term transformational governance. So the pillars of governance as per Kautilya in his Arthashastra, Kautilya presented host of significant or key ingredients, including discipline, self-discipline, discipline. Duties of the government includes the king and all ministers. In fact, he even mentioned how they are going to be selected. Some of the people, some of the officers, selection and all also mentioned. Various superintendents, laws, removal of towns, all that it is mentioned as a very important part of government. In fact, if you go through the Idihasas also, you might find similar. It's also from, if you do a reference to Valmiki's Ramayana and also Vyasa Mahabharata, is there. And on governance, Kautilya has stated that a king, okay, as a king is, so will his people, followers. A very popular statement, Yatha Raja Tata Praja. Yatha Raja Tata Praja. Like father, like son. Okay, something like father, like son. Your children will follow your example. Whatever example that you set, whatever words that you speak, whatever behavior that you exhibit will be followed by your children. The same thing, whatever the king, the leader, the governor does, the follower will also follow. If the governor, the leader is corrupt, the follower also will be corrupt. Very clear. Leadership at the top is very important. States as is leadership by example. And those of you who are familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, you can make a reference to chapter 3, verse 21 of the Bhagavad Gita, where it is stated that whatever the great person, leaders does, followers will follow. And whatever examples that he sets, okay, the whole will pursue. Now go and make a reference to this particular verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Whole world will follow. Lokashtat anuvartate says that. The leader of any organization, that's why it's very important for leader development or governor, development of the governor, must maintain high standard while running an organization. If the king is energetic, people also will become energetic. If king is slack, lazy, people also become lazy. A lazy king also will easily fall in the hands of enemy. This happens in history that has learned. Look at the many history. Study history when you look into how some of the great kingdoms have fallen because of the king, because of the leader, because of the governor, leadership. So that's why Kautilya mentions king should always be energetic. So the importance here also mentioned, if you look into Valmiki Ramayanam, I'm making a reference to Ayutthaya Kanda, chapter 67, verse 34. A king, he says, is like a mother as well as a father and a benefactor of man. Another one from Mahabharata, king should always bear himself towards his subject as a mother towards child in the womb. This is mentioned. Shanti Parva, Mahabharata. So he says here, managing an organization need to be carried out with the help of senior leaders and thinkers. Sometimes you need counselors, you need thinkers. If I give you examples, there are many. From Ramayana, if you find even this, what do you call, I was even given Maricha to Ravana. Maricha gave this advice to Ravana too. Okay, consult senior leaders, thinker before you carry out any action. You cannot decide what your senses telling you. So that's why it's important to have a chariot. In order to move, it needs two wheels. One wheel doesn't support transportation. Therefore, it is necessary to appoint senior leaders, thinkers, and listen to their opinion. Okay, one chariot cannot move. Chakram ekam na pravartate says that. A king has to appoint ministers who should restrain the king from going astray and help in doing what was right as well as what was good for the state. This is the words of Maricha to Ravana. Aranya Kanda of Valmiki Ramayana, chapter 44, verse 6 and 7. If you want to make a reference, you can refer to that. Kautilya also states, wherever good people are ignored, are not taken care of, and evil people are embraced, distress increases. When you are not taking care of people who follows the path of Dharma, when you tend to favor more towards adharma, distress increases. Distress. Okay. He lists the cause of disaffection, such as lack of motivation and increase in economic distress of people. It's happening in some country, many countries. Leaders, the governors at the top, they have ignored the people. They have not taken care of the people welfare. When people welfare is not taken care of, you will find that the reaction, there will always be some reaction of the action that will have an impact towards the entire state or even an organization. Here further says, king rejects the dharma that it is thus what ought not to be done, does not to do what ought to be done, does not give what ought to be given, and gives what ought not to be given. He causes people to worry and people will dislike. In countries where people complain about leadership, have grievance of leadership, you find something similar, like what Kautilya have mentioned. And another things about Kautilyan self-governance is that, according to Kautilya, the best governor is a Raja Rishi. Raja Rishi, you find in many things on the Puranas, but the thing about Raja Rishi here is that a king or a leader who has self-control and does not fall for temptation of his senses. He continuously and cultivates his thoughts. He avoids false and flattering advices. See, you have felt and advising is good about the king. They don't reprimand the king. They don't what you call say anything not good to the king. Okay, he genuinely promoting the security and welfare of the people. He enriches and empowers his people. He practices ahimsa, which is the non-violence against all living being. He lives a simple life and avoid harmful people or activities. And then he's also mentioned he keeps away from another's wife nor carves for other people's property. This is what Kautilya mentioned about the need for a king or a governor to be the Raja Rishi. Okay, now let me go into the aphorism, the sutras, which is very relevant to the Kautilyan model of self-governance. I have selected 5. There are more. It's not only these 5. These are first the basis of sukha, so being happy, basis of happiness or prosperity is ethics. In this context, I'm using ethics. Actually, when you look at dharma, it's very wide. You have to look into the context. Dharma can be occupational duty, dharma can be righteousness, virtue. But Mahabharata in Karna Parva, there is a definition of dharma. Dharma means something that sustains everything. Dhara iti dharma. That which sustain everything is dharma, it's mentioned there. But in this context, we look at dharma as an ethics, righteousness or ethics. And then he further says, dharmasya mulamartha. The basis of dharma is the resources. Arthasya Moolam Rajam. The basis of resources is kingdom, creation of the organization. Rajasya Moolam Indriya Jayaha. The organization is rooted in complex of sense. We go into that. Indriya Jayasya Moolam Vinaya. That means you need, in order to conquer the senses, you need to go through training, discipline. Okay, this can be done by serving elders and all that. It will be mentioned later on. There are more to that, but I'm just going to go into the first 5 sutras. Starting with the first one, happiness. The purpose to do anything, everything is to create happiness. Happiness not only to you, but happiness to other people. First sutra starts with happiness, and he says the purpose of a governor or a leader is to generate prosperity to all the stakeholders. The popular saying, Charve Jana Sukino Bhavantu, or Loka Shamasta Sukino Bhavantu. You know, this is a part of a prayer. Let everybody be happy. Let the entire world be happy. Now, if you are going to take this Kautilyan idea, there is a book on strategic management. Student would be, this is one of the capstone course that you will be taking in strategic in management. Freeman's model. In his book, Strategic Management, a Stakeholder Approach, he presents stakeholder theories and suggests that the purpose of a business is to maximize value for the stakeholder. That means the happiness of the stakeholders. This is where you get into the context, the content, the context, current context, when you are looking into stakeholder theory. Students who are taking MBA will be able to know. In a CSR also, you might be coming across this stakeholders theory. You find it in strategy. When you say stakeholder means all the people who have an interest in the organization. It's not only the company, it's not only the shareholders, it's also the manager, the owners, the employees, the customers, suppliers, every one of them who have an interest. It's not like creation of happiness to only the owners, only the shareholders. but employee suffers. No, happiness, everyone have to be happy. This is a cycle. When everyone is happy, it goes through a cycle. When one or two group is not very happy, it also goes through a vicious cycle of sadness, depression, of sorrow. So this is what Kautilya starts with the Sukhasya Moolam Dharma. And in his Arthasastra, he says this, very important to note for everyone who is a leader. A leader can be anywhere. Okay, it can be a manager, it can be a governor. What he says that in the happiness of his people lies the happiness of the king, the leader, the governor. Their welfare is his welfare. He shall not consider as good only that which pleases him, but treat as to him whatever causes happiness to the people. You can remember, it's a very popular, is there? It is very popularly quoted from Arthasastra. Praja Shukke, Shukkam Rajyam. Raja will be happy when the Praja is happy. Prajanam cha hite hitam, natma priyam hitam ragya, prajanam tu priyam hitam. The king who observes all his duty attains infinite bliss and spiritual merit. Ananta. Ananta is a state of bliss. Ananta is more than happy. You can't compare happiness and anandam, ananda. Then he says that a king should be ever active to carry out management of social well-being, which will in turn lead to spiritual well-being and happiness. And a king who does not violate righteousness will never be devoid of happiness. These are clear statement comes from Kautilya. Kautilya about that the first you look in happiness of the king. Valmiki Ramayana, Ayutthaya Kandam says, just like the eyes ever strive for the good for the body, so does the king who is a fountain of truth and dharma ever strive for the good of his subject and the kingdom. This is mentioned in Ayutthaya Kanda. A king in Aranya Kanda, a king who is always attentively protecting all people dwelling within the kingdom, like his own life, attains fame which lasts for many years and attains spiritual merit and bliss. And then he says, Mahabharata, king who is devoted to dharma finds spiritual happiness. So happiness. Now coming to a modern context, what is this happiness? Happiness and success. People say if you are successful, you are happy. Answer is not. Dale Carnegie mentions that success is getting what you want, but happiness is wanting what you get. Happiness in a context now, if you look into, you can look from various angles. Although this is type of health, I can also look into the type of happiness. Physically, body, your body, there is no problem to your body, you are happy. Mental happiness, emotional happiness, social, environmental, spiritual, many. So, next sutra, Dharmasya Mulamartha. The basis of ethics or dharma is resources. According to Kautilya, dharma without resources is toothless, and resources without dharma is useless. You need both. You talk about dharma, but there is no resources, no artha. What can you do? Resources will make ethical conduct or behavior possible and vice versa. But he says, in deciding, the must come first, not labam, not lava or labam. It's not about profit, but auspiciousness, subham. In a current context, mostly if you look into, it's not subham, but labham. I'm sure you understand. No, labha means something like profit, labham. It's in all the Indian languages, you find it same. Subham. You have to do good work, subhakarya. Then labha will come. Labha is something will be outcome, but you should not always be focused on lava. The governors, leaders must strive to generate resources based on their ethical conduct or behavior. Generation of resources. So that's why you say, artha without dharma is lobha or greed. The artha are important. The artha must be based on dharma. That's why artha without dharma is lobha, greed. On this side, if you look into on the other purusharthas, kama without dharma is moha or lust. Of course, based on if you look into the model, the dharma, artha, kama, moksha, all are important. All are important. But it has to be based on the principles of dharma. In fact, if you look into like Tiruvalluvar, Tirukkural, okay, they in Tamil they use this term called aram, porul, imbam. Vidu is moksha, but Tirukkural usually, if you look into his work, aram, porul, imbam, that is dharma, artha, and kama. Where if you follow those three, based on the principles of dharma, the vidu or the moksha is attained. And here he says, happiness and sadness are two sides of the coin. That need to be balanced, controlled. Now, Kautilya further says in his third sutra, Arthasya Moolam Rajyam. You need kingdom. Basis of resources is kingdom. If you want to generate resources, if you want to get artha, if you want to get wealth, you need an enterprise, you need an organization, you need a team, you need a unit. You need to create a business. You need to create an organization. MBA students, you're looking to, what's the purpose you develop an organization? You want to get some resources. You want to serve. You want to acquire resources. That means you need an enterprise. You need an organization. And he further says, resources generated by organization. What are the resources? Manpower, materials. Manpower, money, machine, material, market, metals, method. 6 episodes at a time. Those who study management know management. The inputs are all manpower, money, methods, machines, materials. Goes through a process, planning, organizing, leading, controlling in order to get the outcome. Outcome can be productivity, profitability, customer satisfaction, employees' job satisfaction, all that. And Kautilya further says, further generation of resources requires expansion of kingdom. Business needs to be expanded. If you want to grow, if you want to make the organization grow, you need to acquire resources, generation of resources. You need to generate resources by expanding. Today, if into what government, those who are in the marketing will know what is product development, new product development, market penetration, penetrating the existing market, existing product. ENSOF metrics, you do a search on ENSOF metrics, you will find this. Product development, market penetration, market development. Market development means you go into developing new market. You look into your business. If you are very successful in Karnataka, you can expand to other states. You can expand to from Karnataka. You can expand to Tamil Nadu, to Andhra, to Kerala, to Maharashtra, to Madhya Pradesh, to Orissa, all parts of India. And then if you have already covered entire India, you can go world. You can conquer the world. You go to international market, global market. So for generation of resources requires expansion of organization. It says expansion of kingdom, but here it can be organization, but not by war, but through market. Look at how China is conquering, expanding. Then, number 4, the fourth thoughts on Kautilya from his sutra, he says, Rajya Moolam Indriya Jayaha. Indriya Jaya, conquest of senses. Organization is rooted. If the organization needs to be run effectively, if you want to run your organizations well, that people who runs it, that means the governor needs to win, not the enemy outside. There is no external enemy, the enemy inside them. Victory over the senses means control of 5 organ of sense: ears, eyes, ears, tongues, nose, skin, 5 organ of action: Jnanindriya, Karmindriya, hands, feet, mouth, and all that. Only the leader or the governor who has should be conquered the organs of his body would be able to put the organizational interest first than self-interest. There should not be a self-interest. Organizational interest. Uttarakanda of Ramayana, you learn that there was a time when Rama had to even banish Sita, because as a leader he wanted to put the interests of the state, of the kingdom first before his self-interest. Remember, Praja Shukke Shukkam Rajyam. Raja happy when the Praja is happy. What involves the control? It shouldn't be a control here. I should use the word management of the 6 enemies within. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Moha, Matsarya. Also includes Mana, Harsha. These are when you say enemies means your friend, your people who are around you, they are not your enemy. Externally, there's no enemy. If you are able to conquer the enemy within, you won't have an enemy. You won't see that. You see all the people as your friend. That's a vision that we want. Samadarshinha, Pandita. If you are to his knowledge, Pandita, Shama Darshinha, equal vision of every living being. Because there's a statement in the Bhagavad Gita also. He says that Krishna will be telling, Ishvara Sharva Bhutanam Hrideshi Arjuna Tishati. The Lord is present in the heart of every living being. And he says, you have to be same to every living being. You have to same to yourself. Happiness, sadness. That's also more. There's also a part where I'm going to go through that. A king who has no control of his senses, though here 4 ends of the world. This is mentioned by Kautilya. And again, Valmiki, I'm quoting Ramayana. A king who ignores others, who is addicted to pleasures, who is unable to discriminate, who is wanting in intelligent appreciation of virtues and defects, is born to lose his kingdom and life more and less quickly. You know who says this to Ravana? It's actually a statement. It's actually an advice on governance by whom? By Surpanaka to Ravana. This is found in 33 of Aranyakanda, verse 23. Go to Aranyakanda, Valmiki Ramayana, chapter 33. Surpanaka will be giving art of governance to Ravana. She will be giving a lot of advice. One of the advice she gave to Ravana is this, similar to what is mentioned by Kautilya. Later on, Kautilya also says the same. That is why, remember, these are important things for you, for a leader. If you want to be a good governor, good leader, you need to conquer these 6. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Krodha. For example, if you take Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 63, Krishna clearly mentioned 62, 63 is about aggression, about anger. Anger is mentioned in 63. Krodhat bhavanti shamohat, shamohat smriti vibramha, smriti vibramshat buddhinasha, buddhinashat pranashyati. When one is angry, what happens to him? The person. Ultimately, he falls down. Memory gets bewildered. He falls down. So, this is what is Kautilya. And the Kautilya's advice, if I'm going to take from an Upanishad called Kato Upanishad, a very nice Upanishads. If you have, some of you might have gone through the conversation between Yamaraja and Nachiketa. Just take your body, human body. The human body, you have senses. You have your eyes. Okay, mata, the eyes, ear, hands, all nose, everything. You have all the, you have the sense, you have the sense of sight, hear, smell, touch, taste, also the brain. These are the senses. The horses here represents the senses. You know, the driving in serene, this is mana. The driver is the buddhi, your intelligence. You, the self, the real self, it is, maybe if you want to look into the soul or the self, is a passenger. So it says, use your intelligence to distinguish between what is right and wrong. Intelligence should be able to direct the mind. But sometimes for us, many times, the senses are directing the mind and then it bewilders the intelligence. Atmanam Radinam Iti. That is a very beautifully explained. Okay, like a Ratham. Yes, he says that. See, many things is applicable even today in a current context. Control of the senses, connecting it to the mind, connect to the intelligence, connect to your brain. People get into problem, create enemies, regret. People regret their life many times because they don't connect what they say, what they do, what they think. Firstly, what they think, what they say, what they write, and what they do, they don't connect. They don't take a proactive action. Those days is about people, you need to connect your tongue to your brain before. You need to connect before you say anything. But nowadays, before you type anything, social media becoming a problem nowadays. Please connect your fingers to the brain. That's why I say a clever person solves a problem, a wise person avoid. Kautilyan model wants you to become a wise person. Not a clever person means you get into a problem you want to solve. You can solve, but we don't want you to solve problem. We want you to avoid any problem. It's also a statement from Einstein. The last one, okay, of course I can go more on and on, but I'm looking at the time. The last one is, he says that Indriya Jayasha Moolam Vinaya. Conquering the senses is rooted in training. It requires practice, not something that is easy. Okay, like for example, people like us, many of you are students in a university. It's not too late. You can undergo discipline, but it should actually start from childhood. Training should start from childhood. In fact, from the Vedic literature, if you look into from the Sastras, not only childhood is even earlier than that. You will also learn. You also do studies. If you do studies, you also find learning even starts from. For examples, Mahabharata, you have an examples of Abhimanyu, learning prenatal learning. Prahlad, son of Hiranyakasipu and Kayadu, learn when he was in the womb of his mother Kayadu. Prenatal learning should start very early. And he says that a king who is well educated and disciplined is devoted to good government of his subject and bent on doing good to all people will enjoy. And here, Lakshmana will be telling Sugriva in Kishkinda Kandam, chapter 34, verse 7, a king who is endowed with goodness who is compassionate and has controlled his senses, who is grateful. Because why he used the word grateful is because Sugriva forgot is he is supposed to do. After Vali was killed, he was coronated as a king of Kishinda. He forgot that he has a duty to perform. He needs to assist Rama. So Lakshmana is telling him, who is grateful and who always speaks truth is greatly honored by in the world. So the control of the mind, he says here, discipline, must be able to tolerate. See, Bhagavad Gita has many things here. Matra, sparsas to kaunteya, sitoshna, shukha, dukkada, agama, paino, nitya, stam titikshava bharata. So you must be able to tolerate hot and cold. Must be able to see everything equally. Sukha, dukkhe, samakrutva, labha, labho, jaya, jaya. All that. Victory, loss, happiness, sorrow, all should be taken. Brahma Buddha. Brahma Buddha, Prashantatma, na soshati na kanshati, sama sharveshu bhuteshu. Mad bhaktim labhyate baram. Brahma Buddha stage. We must train ourselves to see things like training. Everyone have to go through a training. Happy or sad, be equal, be at peace. Because life is such that at times you are happy, there are times you are sorrow. This is like a chakra of the life. One should not be overjoyed when they are happy or even over depressed when they are sorrow. They must be always at an equilibrium level. In economics, you study equilibrium, right? Equilibrium, market equilibrium. Okay, at the microeconomics, you do it macro level also. You need to be an equilibrium stage. Equilibrium, aggregate demand and supply at the market, based on the market. You need to be in a stable condition. Many things also given Bhagavad Gita. That's why don't be too attached to the outcome of anything. Always do our duty. We do. Bhagavad Gita, the famous sloka. Karmanye evadi karaste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma pala heturbur mati shango akarmane. The karmana, the one in 2.47, and then Dashmat ashakta shatatam karyam karma shamashara ashakta hi acharan karma param apnoti purusha. Duty need to be done for the sake of duty without too much attachment. Because when we are too attached to reward, we are losing our focus. That means the focus. That means training of the mind, equanimity of the mind. Many things can be said about equanimity of the mind. It also says, okay, samatvam yoga uchate. Equanimity of the mind is yoga. And Bhagavad Gita also you have the mind, not easy to control. In fact, in Arjuna will tell Krishna, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna, pramathi balavadridham, tashyaham nigraham anye vayu reva shudushram. Difficult to control, difficult to discipline, difficult to control. But Krishna will say, yes, it can be done. Asamshayam mahabaho. Manodurnigraham chalam abhyashina to kaunteya vairachina cha grihayate. Yes, it can be done through constant practice and detachment. Abhyasha, practice. First time difficult. I had a friend who now runs marathons, half marathon and marathons. In the beginning, even for him to run 1 kilometer was tough. But he did not give up. He practiced. He took the half marathon, more than a year. He is able to do it. That means it requires abhyasha, practice. You can do it. Everyone can do it. Equanimity. This is what sometimes, from what you look into that part on conquest or senses, something like a modern context, you look into emotional intelligence. I can go on and on about emotional intelligence. It's a very wide topic. Kautilya's model, if you look into, wants the governor, the leader, to be emotionally intelligent as well. So, coming close, so you learn something about Kautilya. Yes, Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, a very good book, Daniel Goleman, book on emotional intelligence. See, you learn about Kautilya now, Kautilyan model of self-governance. You don't have to be a governor to become self-governance, to practice, become a leader to practice self-governance. You don't have to become to wait until you become a director or CEO to practice self-governance. You can do it. Anybody can do it anytime. The only thing is that people generally have this thing called ostrich syndrome. If you come across ostrich, ostrich syndrome is that they ignore, they deny there is a problem. And why they do that is due to their nature. Human beings generally you can categorize under three nature. Of course, if you go into psychological, there are many, but if you look from the Vedic psychology, there are three categories of nature. One is sattvika nature, sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. Some people have a combination of sattvic, rajasic, pure sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. So yeah, there are combinations, but generally you have sattvic, rajasic. Sattvic means generally, rajasic means passion, energetic. Tamasic means ignorance. People are always in a state many times, ignorance. And all these happen to us at any time. But you have to elevate yourself more to move towards a sattvic. That means you need to understand the problem first. Okay. So this is what, if you look into Kautilya's Arthasastra and also Kautilyan model, I'm coming to a conclusion part. I think I'm almost, time is almost coming to an end, but I will just take about 5 minutes to complete. The education, very important. You need to know, you need to be aware, you need to help people to be aware, help people to change. People to change. A deeper change can be achieved through psychological process and discipline. The psychological factors which have developed and internalized to create enduring ethical consciousness. See, sometimes I'm someone who has been trained in neuro-linguistic programming techniques, NLP. Okay, I've acquired NLP master practitioner. There's a different field. If you look into, if you want to know, you can search, what is NLP. You need to train people, help people. Before you help people, you need to help your own self to internalize teaching. Some of these teaching, let's say, if you are not interested to learn from Kautilya, even Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People can also help you. There are many books are there. When you read, you don't just read mechanical reading. You have to read, internalize to acquire self-knowledge. So you need to create this ethical consciousness such as calmness, peace, and tranquility. Also the area that I have mentioned to you earlier, emotional intelligence, and all these things you need to develop. Truth, goodness, harmony, unity, persistence, strength, courage, enthusiasm in doing things, must always be energetic. Show kindness and compassion to all the living beings. Not only people, all the other beings. Integrity, which means in psychological perspective, harmonious integration between thoughts, words, and action. Thought is cognitive. Feeling is affection, the affective part, affective domain. Words and action must be consistent. Okay, coming conclusion, two more slides. This is coming to an end. Now, what is the outcome, the impact of Kautilyan model of self-governance? The king Chandragupta Maurya, who benefited from Kautilya, was considered to be the unifier of India during the 4th century BC. If you study history at that time, it was not called India. India is a modern term. He was a unifier during the 4th century BC. And the Mauryan Empire was continued by his son Bindusara and by his grandson Ashoka. Ashoka, I'm sure, very popular. You know Ashoka well. And the empire expansion include Kandahar, Afghanistan. Gandhara, if you look into Ramayana times, they are terms used Kekeya. Kaikeyi comes from that side. Kaikeyi. Kekeya. Mahabharata, you call Gandhar. Afghanistan side. There is a place in Afghanistan called Gandhar. All the way to border of Persia, extending to Bengal. And today, if you do a careful study of Kautilyan model, it will be useful for your self-governance and also good governance of organizations that you manage, and also for expanding your business empire. So conclusion now, what I have covered is just gist. And in my coverage, I have used quotes from other sources like Ramayana of Valmiki and the Mahabharata of Vyasa. I can even quote from other sources, many other sources as well. Many other literatures are available. Why I have quoted? Because I that Arthas, about Arthasastra is also available in Valmiki, Ramayana and Mahabharata, because I do more studies about Mahabharata and Ramayana, Valmiki, Ramayana and Mahabharata. The last about Arthasastra that I have published was many, many years ago. About 10 years ago, 10 or 11, I think about 12 years ago. Okay. So mine more to the Ramayana of Valmiki and Mahabharata, where I have done some work. Of course, these are not something that I'm teaching in university. My teaching is totally a different area. But as I say to you, these concepts from Kautilya and the ideas, there are many that can be useful today. Kautilyan model, which you can take from Arthasastra, Chanakya Niti, and also his sutras, which are relevant for self-governance and governance and also governance. And of course, if you go deeper, many new areas of governance concepts, which is yet to be explored by modern management scholars. Many things can be taken out and given new meaning in a current context. So I foresee that there will be more studies in other area of corporate management, like strategic management, financial management, human resource management, from Kautilya's Arthasastra, that can be undertaken in the near future by many of you. All of you who are here, you can do a study and you can take up many from Arthasastra that can be applicable in the modern context. That's an end of the presentation. I have concluded. Thank you to the organizers. Let me stop sharing now. Okay, I have stopped shared. Okay.
Balakrishnan sir, it's a wonderful mixture of.
Anyone have any questions?
Yes, sir, it's a wonderful mixture of many ideas. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I accept all the points.
Thank you. Let me go through the chat. In the chat section, there are questions. Let me see if there are any questions from the chat. I think there are like attendance. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. So thank you so much for your wonderful lecture. I'm looking at the chat box. Everyone enjoying your lecture, sir. So really, we are very happy to have you again. I'm telling. And
okay.
We'll go.
Okay, there are quotes here. Many Vasudeva Kudumbakam. Yeah. Based on cultural heritage. Okay. Basic of theories. Okay, one says do not endorse Dale Carnegie. Okay, it's a different viewpoints. Yes, we respect different viewpoints, different people. Yes, Carnegie's case. Yes, we are familiar. Tirukural. Tirukural also. China is expanding the market through war, just like what Kautilyan model. China, they have many. In fact, if you look into China, based on my study about Chinese philosophy, Confucius, if you study Confucius, Confucius in the 6th century BC also mentioned something similar to what Kautilya have mentioned about governance. There is an idea from Confucius as well. So China culture, if you look into tradition, they have a lot, not only China, I can say China, Taiwan, of course, many of the Chinese won't consider Taiwan as a country, but Taiwan and do have some influence of Confucius teachings or Confucius heritage. Okay, and then any more? Okay, the best way to win enemy is to make friendship. Yes, correct. Okay, Mahabharata and Valmiki Ramayana. Okay, fine. Sometimes meet you to discuss. Okay, we can meet online nowadays. You can easily meet through online. Sita Pragyan, yes, Sita Pragyan is Sita Pragyan is based on one question here. Sita Pragyan, he mentioned balance between Sukha and Dukkha. Yes, Sukha and the balance. Sita Pragyan means someone who is self-reliant, self-controlled. In Valmiki Ramayana, we can say Rama is someone Sita Pragyan, emotionally intelligent. The verse in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 55, says, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partho manogataha atmanye evat manatushta sita prajnan tadochayet. You go through that, some commentaries, you will find what's the real meaning of sita prajnan. Of course, mention detachment.
So let me intervene here. In chat box,
Philosophy. The best way to punish a person is to ignore. Okay, all right. Corporate trainer, yes, I do training in labor law, employment law.
Professor Balakrishnan, sir.
Thought proving, yes.
Professor
I'm reading
Balakrishnan,
the chat here. Yes, sir.
Yeah, in chat box there are no questions, simply comments are there. Just I wanted to have, if anybody wants to interact directly with the speaker, we have respected speakers of the earlier sessions, Professor Manohar Rao and one of the active participants, Professor Gopal Singh, and other participants are there. If anybody of the participant would like to interact, please, the session open to all to interact. One can start with unmuting mic and immediately after question, please mute yourself.
Sir Balakrishnan, you exposed the many dimensions of Kautilya's Arthashastra from different perspectives. There are a lot of possibilities of interdisciplinary research. See, each of the topics that you have mentioned is worth of, say, getting a PhD. How many students are doing the research under your guidance, sir?
Students in HR, you're talking about the research in Kautilya Arthashastra. I was not very some of that. First you mentioned about interdisciplinary, yes. The Arthashastra, of course, when you do a study about Arthashastra, you can look at it from your discipline because majority of you are from the field of economics planning, economics. From Kautilya, there are a lot of ideas on economics, okay, and finance. Economic plannings are available to do further research. This is on economics. Second, those in the field of finance and accountings, also a lot are available. Accounting, taxations are also available. And people like me, from the field of human resource management, also there are plenty of advice and also inputs that are available. So if you look into people in any field, whether he's from the field of economics, field of finance, whether you are looking into field of politics, there are many on politics. In fact, I think one of the participants also asked the questions on politics, relevance to politics. Yes, anyone who can follow the Chanakya, sometimes we say somebody who's a very good political strategist, we associate Chanakya's name to him. He's a Chanakya. He's like Chanakya because Chanakya has created such a name. So a lot of things that the thing is that the problem, people don't want to look into such literature. But I see now there is an interest, like in India, I see there is an interest. In even some other countries also there is an interest. People look into ancient philosophy. But I still find in the textbooks, in the economics textbook, management textbook, when they provide something like evolution of management thoughts, contributors to the management thoughts, a contribution to the field of economics. I'm not sure about India, but I look at the textbook here in Malaysia and also the textbook from the West on economics written by several authors in the West. Nothing mentioned about Kautilya, but I think it's about time if more people do research and try to establish. There has been a work on economics that has been written long ago in the 4th century BC by Kautilya. More people will be able to get some information about Kautilya's Arthasastra and they will start reading it. Okay. For me,
Sir,
yes.
yeah, sir, this is from Rajalingam, sir. It is very nice lecture and thanks
Yes,
for sharing your valuable time. Sir, I need small clarification from you that how we can do research with reference to Kautilya and diversity and inclusion. In management area, there is a diversity and inclusion. Separate domain is there. Diversity and inclusion.
You are looking into
diversity and inclusion.
Diversity in HR, diversity and inclusion. First, you need to get your clear definition of what is the diversity that you want to explore. Diversity, if you go into the literature on diversity, there are many layers of diversity. First layer is a psychological layer. Diversity simply means whatever that makes one person different from other person. So we are not only diversity from most people tend to look into is a layer 2 or layer 3. You go into literature, search for layers of diversity. The first layer is a layer within the individuals. Individuals who are different personality, different perception, different belief system, different values, different attitude. These are also diversity. Although they can be in one family, one community, it is still a diversity. So that's the first layer. Second layer, we can look into diversity in terms of people who are different, in terms of race, ethnicity, religion. These are second layers. So you have to clearly define what layer of diversity that you would like to explore. Okay, just like, what I suggest to you, first just go and do a search on layers of diversity. Understand what really diversity is and be specific in what type of area, which layer of diversity that you would like to focus.
Like women, women and these LGBTQ, like because in that times there was a different perspective. The Chanakya on one hand, yesterday the learned speaker was saying that he was suggesting some measures for this sexual harassment and these connected matters. And the same Chanakya talked about that Devadasi system at that time.
Yes,
so,
yes.
So in one of the sentences to Chanakya, it was there, which I quote: "The world's biggest power is the youth and the beauty of a woman," which is quoted by Chanakya. And the same Chanakya says that yesterday our learned speaker Balbir Singh sir has informed that he was talking about this sexual harassment. So how we can include in diversity and inclusion perspective, like women and many other diverse sections of the society, which are prevailing in the recent strategic HR concept.
Panduranga,
Okay.
if you take the concept of exclusion, who are
Okay.
excluded, what is excluded, then you can take what is inclusion. First define what is excluded and then go for inclusion, then you can explain the diversity. Thank you, Balakrishnan sir. Sorry for that.
It's okay.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. First, I think you have to look into the content and the context. Firstly, you have to understand Arthasastra was written in a different context. Content
Yes,
can be applicable, but you have to, when you apply a particular content, you have to look into the current context.
yeah.
Current context. So you have to see the current context. You have to see the current context, how the world is moving.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
The world
Sir,
is, times are totally different. So you have to be careful when you want to take wholesale from one the content into new context. But of course, some of the ideas can be, I'm not talking about only the one that you have mentioned, but many of the ideas can be, but there are some you have to look into the present situation in the world, how the world is moving, because a lot of changes have undergone over the centuries. But of course, the psychological side, it will still be relevant because human nature, there is no change as far as the human nature is concerned. For example, if you take Ramayana, Mahabharata, when people ask whether it is still relevant, Ramayana in Treta Yuga, Mahabharata in Dwapara Yuga, but I ask a question, first question to them is that, do you find in a society people such as Mantara, Kaikeyi, Sugriva, Mahabharata, Saguni, are still present today, still around today? Nature of the, I'm talking about the nature of the people. The nature of the people won't change because of people's nature is determined by their vasanas. I don't want to go into that. It can be through past. Some people like, because followers of Sanatana Dharma will know what is this past, but past previous Janma and all that. But I think you need to look from a psychology and human nature, yes. But if you look into other perspective like laws, regulation, maybe it might not apply in a current context. Look at what from the literature that can be applied in a current context. Not everything can be applied in a current context. Choose anything. If you want to do a research, select those that you feel will be relevant to current context. Then the work will be will become a good work. Okay.
Thank you. I request all
Can
the
you hear me?
participants to stick to only one question. Yes, Professor Balakrishnan sir. I request all the
Yes.
participants to stick on to only one question so that other participants will get the chance. And there should not be any continuation question. Make a brief question all together and make one question.
I'm also seeing some questions in the chat, some sent privately. There is about politics on Kautilya. About political perspective, again, one participant asked on political perspective. He asked privately, he sent privately, what do you think about political perspective? A lot. Application is a lot. Even when you go through a reading, any literature, go through a deep reading. First reading might not be able to, like for example, when I do reading like Valmiki Ramayana, Mahabharata, first reading sometimes, second reading when you go through, you will know that you might have missed many things. When you go through it, more things you have missed in the first and second reading. So go through the reading, you find so many informations are there. Okay, especially I'm telling you, those who are interested in reading the Idihasas, if don't just stop with just the first reading, you have read it. You need to read and read, then you find many things that you have missed in the past. Of course, many people asking here on tenets of political economy. Yes, Arthasastra is a political economy. Not only economics, but also on politics. But I see that it is not only about politics. I can see about management. It is about governance. It is about human resource management and many more. Okay, one more question I see, correlating issues of Kautilya and Gandhi in terms of self-governance. You need to, this one, again, you have to look into the idea of Kautilya. I cannot remember anywhere Gandhi quoting extensively on Kautilya. That Kautilya is being quoted extensively, but he has quoted from Ramayana and other sources from Ram Raja and other sources. Yes, if I'm able to, from my limited information about Gandhi, knowledge about Gandhi, but other areas of self-governance about governance, yes, Gandhi I have quoted, but I am not able to recall anything from Kautilyan perspective. Anyone who have done readings on Gandhi's, deep reading on Gandhi's will be able to comment on the spot.
Sir, may I?
Yes.
Sir, I have asked the question and I'm working upon Gandhi's Swaraj. So, in case of
Okay.
self-governance, Gandhi ji himself has propagated for Ram Rajya model. Again, that has been given by Kautilya.
Yes.
So, Ram
When you
Rajya
look
model,
into
yes, sir.
okay, the Ram Rajya model is extensively done. There are people who have done studies. From Kanda of Valmiki Ramayana and Uttarakanda of Valmiki Ramayana, but there are also many others. If you go through from Ayutthaya Kanda, also some of that is available. Now, from Kautilya again, as you said, Kautilya have taken also from there something that relates to the self-governance. It is there from Kautilya as well. But as far as my information or knowledge on Gandhi, because I have not done any detailed study on Gandhi and Gandhi's biography and all that. I have a limited information on Gandhi. So he has given mostly, as far as I know, is from Ram Raja. So thank you to Madam Millie, okay, who gave something about Gandhian Ram Raja's governance model. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir. As Madam asked the question.
In case of Gandhi, I would like to include Kautilya's views in my research. So how can I contact you for further understanding of Kautilya?
Okay, very good, very good. You can include, but you have to quote that the Arthasastra of Kautilya, his model is not something that is new at that time. He has taken from the Ramayana also is there, Mahabharatam is also there on the governance. In fact, he himself mentioned that he has taken sources from many other sources. Yes.
But my question is how to contact you in case of unending Kautilya. Means this is not the premise
You
that
want
we
to
can
contact
go
me?
on. So
Okay,
if
I write for you the email. How do the organizer have my email? Let me check how do let me write here email. Am I able to? Okay, right. My email is bala.hrm.
yes, sir.
At
Yes, sir. I will
gmail.com.
share your email ID to all the participants.
Okay, I have just typed my email. In fact, the slides, I think I can share with all of you. I think I've given to the Professor Linga here. She will share with all of you the slides will be available to you. If I'm able to share the
Fine.
slides
Thank you,
here,
sir.
I can. Can I?
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
okay.
Thank you. We need to understand the time considerations. Due to that, I would like to invite our HOD ma'am, the president of this session, Professor Pushpa Saudati, to give her remarks.
Sir, thank you for clarifying doubts, sir.
Radhika, please.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
giving clarification, sir. Offering.
Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Murthy. At the outset, I congratulate Dr. Balakrishnan Muniapan for a wonderful discourse on Kautilyan model of self-governance. And he quoted extensively in Sanskrit also. That itself shows his depth of understanding of the subject on which he is giving a lecture today. And in this lecture, he demonstrated very effectively the relevance of Kautilya model of self-governance in contemporary management thoughts in the 21st century. So we also agree that effective management and leadership plays a very important role in any organization, even in the organizations of higher education. And it is also interesting to note that Kautilya can be considered as father of management. And yesterday we discussed and we came to the conclusion that Kautilya should be considered as founder of economics, not Adam Smith. So, so that shows the contribution of Kautilya not only to economics as suggested by our resource person, finance, politics, spiritualism, culture, etc. And another important thing, I mean, very interesting for me was to observe that spiritualism and philosophy are also contributing to the governance and management. And that is where the role of Kautilya becomes very important, wherein he talks about self-governance. That's very important. Self-governance is the basis for outer transformation, inside out, not outside in. So for that, what is required is discipline, right? So with the discipline only it can be done, and for that, even yesterday Professor Sihag also mentioned about Rajarshi, and that ethics, that inner change we have to build at the child, during the childhood only. So right education plays a very important role here. Right education is the path to a lasting inner change. That's what Dr. Balakrishnan said. And we also agree that it is a psychological process. And here the role of teacher is very important. See, the right education. We are all teachers and going to be teachers. Future teachers are also here. So first of all, we have to have that ethics in ourselves. Then only we can disseminate these ethical values, and we can create Rajarshis at an young age. Then only we can bring the desired change. So I feel that looking at present day scenario in the higher education, not only in education, in many sectors of our country, this basic core ethics is missing, the values. What we have been discussing, integrity, values, happiness. So that is why it is a time for us teachers to introspect ourselves, to what extent we are having the kind of qualities like compassion, generosity, integrity, because our actions speak and not our words. And we are in a position to influence our younger generation, who will look at us as a role model. So we have a lot of responsibility on our shoulder to make this Kautilya Arthashastra very relevant to the present day. So with these few words, and also it is a very important thing is there is a lot more to for further scope. There is a lot of scope for further research. So much is there. It is abundant. And another observation is, see, we cannot apply whatever that is written in one context, maybe Kautilya Arthashastra itself, as it is to the present day context. That's a very good suggestion, Professor Balakrishna. I completely agree. So researchers who are working in this area should study, make an in-depth understanding of what is written in Kautilya Arthashastra, and take only those which they think and convinced. If they are in a position to get convinced themselves, and must be in a position to convince others or prove that it is relevant to the present day world also. So with these few remarks, it's a very lively session. We enjoyed, and I thank the participants also for their active participation. It has been a very successful session, and we are enjoying actually, Professor Balakrishna, since yesterday It is really a very interesting and very dynamic sessions we are having. So thank you very much. Over to Murthy.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Now I request our research scholar Kiran Badoni to propose vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Hello,
Yes,
am I
Kiran.
audible?
Oh,
Okay. There is no austerity equal to balanced mind, and there is no happiness equal to contentment. There is no disease like cowardliness and no virtue like mercy. संतुलित दिमाग जैसी कोई सादगी नहीं, संतोष जैसा कोई सुख नहीं, लोभ जैसी कोई बीमारी नहीं और दया जैसा कोई पुण्य नहीं. Inspiring by Balakrishna sir, taking these quotations from Chanakya Niti. Pranam Namaskar, Shubh Madhanam, Shubh Aprahan. Good afternoon to everyone. Today is Give Me Kiran Badoni, Research Scholar, Department of Economic Studies and Planning, Central University of Karnataka. An immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for the event to all dignitaries assembled here. More respected, our President of Program, Professor M.B. Alakwadi, Guest of Honor, Professor Baswaraj, our Convener, Professor Pushpa Savadati, Dean, Head of Department of Economics Planning and Studies, Dr. Lingamurthy Sir, Organizing Secretary, Moderator Malesh Sir, and finally the most eminent, eventful person of today's highlighted program, Dr. Balakrishna Muniapan. Before we express our gratitude for such an inspiring and valuable words given by him, I would like to enlighten all of us with his tremendous background. Dr. Balakrishnan Muniapan, MSc HRM, Portsmouth, DBA, Philippines, certified practitioners of NLP from ABNLP, USA, a certified NLP coach, and a certified trainer, speaker, and coach with the John Maxwell Team USA. He is a HRM specialist and was conferred the Best Professor in HRM Award at World Educational Congress Asian Education Excellence Award 2014 in Singapore, at the World HRD Congress 2017 in Mumbai. He has also been a visiting professor in HRM and has served as an external examiner for DBA PhD thesis in HRM for several universities within Asia and Africa. He is frequently honored as an invited speaker in HRM at numerous national and international conferences, delivered talks in several countries like Asian, Middle East, and so on. As a HRM trainer and consultant, Dr. Bala has vast experience in conducting training and consultancy program in HRM and has contributed tremendously towards HRM effectiveness, hundreds of organizations within Malaysia and in Asia. Sir, firstly, I would like to say, since the beginning of your speech, it looked like that it is going to be free flow as you speak from your heart. Sir, we must say this was a free flow, but the flow was deep and well generalized. We are truly enriched by your inspiring words. Thank you so much for your precious time. Your speech was truly inspiring. It kept us spellbound. It inspired us. I'm sure a lot is going to come up after that speech. We express our gratitude for such an inspiring speech. We don't know how to thank you as you started from Kautilyan Niti, Sastra, then 5 Kautilya Astures and other things. And all things are already covered by Pushpa ma'am. Secondly, I would like to thank Dr. Lingamurthy, organizing secretary and moderator Malesh sir. Without your contribution, sir, this program might not have been possible. Thank you so much for such a generous contribution. And sir, I just wound up Namage Bhavishyadali Nimma Bhalastu Upanasya ಬೇಕಾಗಿದ್ದುವಿ. ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And at last, I would like to thank all the staff members, students, participants, volunteers, and all other university teachers, students, being as a part of our beloved audience for making this session as a grand success. Thanking all of you who has given us a warm responses. Once again, I thanks one and all present here. Thank you so much. Dhanyavadagalu. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kiran. Wonderful word of thanks. Of course, it touched everybody's heart. With this, I would like to thank everybody. And tomorrow, 11 o'clock, we have the session. I would like to request everybody to join by at least 10:45 so that if any technical problem, then we can resolve it. Thank you, Varuna.
Thank you, sir.
See
Thank you
you,
very much.
see you, Professor. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor Balakrishnan, sir. Certainly we'll meet
Thank
sometime. Whenever you come to India, please, my number is with you. You can call me anytime.
Okay.
You are free to come anytime to our university. You can address our students. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.